Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Thank you so much for coming to our second session of that great topic where we're discussing the Muslim family challenges and solution and what it in an Islamic perspective. Last week we had the first session. This week we're having the second session. We have entertained many questions that you raised, and this is really my approach. I do not prepare for a specific topic to share with you. Simple reason behind that, I'm afraid that I would be in my ivory tower talking about something never be related to all of you. So I would rather have you ask me questions, raise some specific issues in order to entertain them. Now it is your turn now to raise your questions, raise your concerns. You have your remarks. And all right, Brother Amir, go ahead.
What would be a good way to energize our teenage or our early 20s children to get more interested in Islam, or maybe more interested in the masjid and you know, going to that level of Iman where they're not just at home and at school and they're so busy with everything? What would you suggest would be a good way to energize them?
That's a wonderful question. How we can energize our children to study Islam, to learn Islam, to enhance their knowledge in Islam, to be encouraged to come to the masjid and increase their level of Iman, faith. This is a wonderful question, and it is by itself a topic, and we need a full session to entertain that issue in here. Briefly, I would share with you that it is and it should be the first priority in our life as parents. Home could really help a lot, and in order to help our children to have the home as the main source of knowledge about Islam, practicing Islam, adhering to Islam, enhance their knowledge about Islam and practice Islam the way it should, I would say that parents would be the primary resource for them. Of course, being educated enough about Islam, having enough knowledge about Islam, and so on and so forth. So the parents should equip themselves first, enhance their knowledge about Islam, and know as much as they can about Islam. That's one. And not to stop at that point, but practicing Islam. Because if you keep teaching your children about Islam, but you're not practicing, that's not the real model. This is not the good model. I want to have my dad or my mom, my parents, to teach me Islam, to enhance my knowledge of Islam, but in the meantime, practicing Islam. So learn from them as much as I can. When it comes to the knowledge of Islam and enhancing my knowledge of Islam and educate myself, I could be a primary resource, but in the meantime, I could direct them to a specific websites about Islam and say, if you'd like to learn about this, you can visit that website. If you can learn about this, you can read that book. If you can consult with a scholar, you can do such and such. Because some parents would say, I do not know enough knowledge about Islam, and now I'm in a total responsibility for teaching my children. You don't have to be a scholar of Islam in order to teach your children about Islam, to enhance their knowledge. But you can direct them where they can learn from. And to be, of course, extra careful when you say, you know, some websites to learn from, some resources, which ones? Which authentic ones? Which reliable ones? Not to go to anyone and learn Islam from them. You can even watch with them. You can watch YouTube with a specific title about Islam. And us as parents, dad and mom, can watch with them, so if they do have some questions to ask, I make myself available to them. So this is in terms of knowledge about Islam. When it comes to practicing, I would stick with the major principles of Islam. Like if I study with them the 6 pillars of faith, or the 5 pillars of Islam. And the third one, as we have studied before, it is Islam and Iman and Ihsan. You know, how to help and how to support and how to elevate yourself from that level of just the 5 pillars of Islam and then move to the 6 pillars of faith, and then to have that concept of Ihsan, how to help and how to dedicate yourself, and so on and so forth. So you can share with them those things. When it comes to practice, I have to look at the principles first. So this would be 3 major components in their life when it comes to adhering to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, first pillar of Islam, how they say it, how they believe in it. When it comes to the prayer, the salah, how they perform it. Either they can watch me or join me in my prayer as a dad, or as a dad and mom, parents, or we can even watch a YouTube talking about, practicing the salah. And I would look at the pillars of the salah, what I should be saying, what I should be memorizing, how I recite such and such, the moves of ruku', bowing down, or sujood, prostrating, or sitting for the tashahhud, and so on and so forth. And the way and the manner and the behavior related to all of these. Siyam, fasting, I would explain to them the principles, and as long as they are able and capable physically and spiritually to practice, I would explain to them the essence and the wisdom behind everything they are doing, to let it make sense to them. So by the end of the day, I am the role model. And I cannot say they would learn from somewhere, or from that resources, or from that YouTube, or from that, recording material about Islam, or Facebook. No, I am the primary source of teaching them, even if I do not have enough knowledge about Islam, but I can direct them to do specific things. When they do have some questions to ask, encourage them to ask. If I do have the answer, I will share with them. If not, okay, let's search it together. Let's find out about it together, and so on and so forth. And one principle in that relationship I have to be careful and extra careful about. I have seen by my own eyes, and I have experienced this when some parents, like for instance, would deal with their children to come to the masjid, to the mosque, to the Islamic center. They drag them on their faces to come, forcing them to come. Not in a way of encouragement, not a way of being persuasive, not the way of convincing them that the benefits behind it, the wisdom behind it, how they can relate to some other kids when they go to the masjid, when they know more friends around them, and so on and so forth. But don't force them to do something against their will. It is just a matter of a good relationship between me as a parent, me as a dad, or me as a mom, in relationship with my children, how to convince them to come. Keep in mind also that the developmental approach you do have with your kids, like when you're dealing with a kid at age of 3 or 5 or 6 or 7 or teenager or older, you have to address them accordingly. But don't assume that they don't understand what you're saying. Sometimes some parents say, oh, he's still a child. She's still a child. They don't understand what I'm saying. No, you explain to them and let them ask questions, encourage them to inquire more and more and more about what you're saying. The encouragement is extremely important. The reward, you know, the more they do with the promise that I will do such and such for you, or if you have accomplished such and such, what are you expecting from me? Their expectations versus what you can offer them or what you can tell them to do, and so on and so forth. And be so generous with them. And when you say, oh, Dad, now if I fast the month of Ramadan, whole 29 or 30 days, what you're going to do with me? What you're going to give me? So, oh, by the end of Ramadan, we have Eid al-Fitr, have that celebration, I have a wonderful gift for you. And this is actually what is expected. You're not only celebrating the success of the completion of the month of Ramadan, but to have as a family one of the tradition to exchange some gifts. What I put in my budget to give to my children have already performing the fasting of the month of Ramadan. Take it as a great opportunity to do that. When you say, oh, by the way, what gift you would be expecting from me? Dad or Mom, here's what I'm expecting. Or I need that, you know, thing to get to me. Or let me make it a surprise and make it very, very valuable. This would be really encouraging to them. And you prepare them for next year. They have a gift this year, accomplish the fasting of the month of Ramadan. Next year they would ask for something else. In their weekly basis, if they can, come to the Friday congregation. Say, okay, we're going to go Friday congregation. If I can take you out of the school and we'll go there, and after we're done, if you're not going back to school, we're going to have lunch. It's a way of socializing and a reward and so on and so forth. At home, okay, when I find out that have you practiced your prayer, your 5 daily prayers, yes, wonderful, here's a token for you. By the end of the week, here's what I can give to you. Or you would explain to them what would be the reward from Allah, from God Almighty to them when they are practicing Islam. Be extra careful when they are practicing Islam, not to do it in a mechanical way. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. By mechanical way, it is the salah. Okay, standing, reading, reciting, ruku', standing up, sujood, and then another sujood, and I'm done. What that salah, that prayer, have positively impacting them? Ask them. Do you feel comfortable? You feel like you are in a real, wonderful, and a great special meeting with Allah, with God Almighty in your salah, or it is just, I'm done with it, put it behind my back? Would it be related to that hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, yani when he asked Bilal ibn Rabah, "Arihna biha ya Bilal." Let that salah bring an absolute comfort for us. So when I'm done with my salah, ask your child, ask your son and daughter, how do you feel when you have that salah? I don't feel that much. Why or why not? You know, what would really help you? Okay, let me tell you something. Let me give you some specific things in here to do. When you're reading Surah Al-Fatiha, the opening of the book, first chapter of the Quran, you know the meaning? Oh, not really, Dad. Not really, Mom. Let's focus on the meaning of it. So when you're reciting, you bring that deep meaning deeply in your heart, so it will never make you away from that wonderful meeting of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to make you focusing in your salah with that khushu', with that humbleness. You have there in your ruku' when you say Subhan Rabbiyal Azim, what it means, versus Subhan Rabbiyal A'la when I have the sujood. What are the differences between what you're saying in here and what you're saying in there? It would make a lot of sense for them. It cannot be done like speaking nonsense without knowing the meaning and the deep meaning of what you're practicing. So this is actually what the parents should do. And in here we have to be honest. If we're not the primary resource for our children to learn Islam, we're really risking them. how many times they come to the masjid? Not in a daily basis, even in weekly basis or on monthly basis. It depends. It depends. But do they go to Islamic schools? How many? Percentage-wise of the community. You have 250,000 Muslims in the Twin Cities. How many out of those 250,000 go to Islamic schools? How many Islamic schools will you have in order to teach them Islam and so on and so forth? We will not have that huge number for our kids to learn. They can rather, with that little magic device, iPhone or whatever they do have, they can learn a lot of things. How we encourage them to learn through that device, but under our instruction, under our supervision, in order to help them. And here, to be honest, either to teach our children to learn Islam, to practice Islam, to adhere by Islam, to have Islam as a wonderful and the best guidance for them, or they are lost. We're losing them. I don't have statistics, but I can tell first generation compared to the second generation of Muslims compared to third generation of Muslims. How many would be remaining in Islam? Now, some people are saying that, and I like this statement so much, that the fastest growing religion in the whole world is Islam. Good. Many people come to Islam, adhere to Islam, learn about Islam, reverting from whatever, and believe in Islam. That's great. That's so wonderful. Fastest growing religion. But how many ones of those who reverted to Islam, stay in Islam, do not leave Islam? That's the question. I don't care that much about how many people would come to Islam on a yearly basis, but how many out of those who came to Islam, stayed with Islam, be adhered to Islam, dedicated to Islam, and practice Islam. If that's in terms of those who revert to Islam, how about our children? How about our children? And they would be equipped enough to manage their life Islamically? Are they equipped enough to teach their children? Here I'm talking about my grandchildren to adhere to Islam. How about my grandchildren? Okay, how many ones of them would adhere to Islam? This is a serious matter. This is a serious matter, and we have to be careful. Keeping in mind also, this society, American society, is a melting pot. Would like to have your children melting in that pot, be gone away. We have seen many around us. You know, early on, a few years back, his name is Muhammad. Now when you call him, Muhammad, say, no, I'm not Muhammad, I'm Mo. Khadija, no, I'm D. Okay? So even the name would be insulting, Muslim name would be insulting to them. So let me change my name. Although it's easy to say, you do not teach people around you, your classmates or co-workers, to say your name right. Okay? Still remember when we first came to this country, my wife and I, and we had a host family. That's the system at the University of Minnesota. You have to have a host family in order to help you, teach you something, take you around, so on and so forth. So both of them, the couple, husband and wife, the first time they came to where we were living in Dinkytown area, very close to the University of Minnesota, and we met them, so we introduced ourselves to them. I'm Hamdy, and this is Asma. I say, could you say your name again? I say, Hamdy. I say, it's really difficult to say Hamdy. I say, how about Hamdy? I say, it's still difficult to me to say. I said, okay, what is not difficult for you to say? And I said, can I call you from now on, and instead of Hamdy, these are 2 syllables, how about if we call you Ham? Call me anything but Ham. I said, why not? I said, you know what Ham means? I said, no, let me think. I said, no, see, H-A-M. This is the first syllable of my name. And you left D out, D-E or D-I or D-Y. And I said, ham, yeah, that meat we eat. I said, pork. I said, yeah. I said, call me anything else. Not ham. Repeat after me. Say, Hamdi. Hamdi. I know that ha is not existing letter in the English language. It's difficult for a lot of people to say, but at least say it with H, you know. And I insisted from the first day for my host family to say my name right. Otherwise, if my name is changed to Ham for the rest of my life, this is my nickname, Ham. I said, no. And you can take many other things. And this is just a little tiny thing, but this is my identity. This is my personality. This is who I am. This is my Muslim name. I cannot give it up, no matter what. And you go from name to your appearance, to your way of life, to your norms, to your tradition, and so on and so forth. Little by little, I lose something. Little by little, I lose something, till I get lost. So I have to be careful. I have to be extra careful. Yet, it is a challenge. Yet, we have to work on it as early as we can. Don't say, they don't understand what I'm saying. No, they do. They do. They do. The other day I was talking to a very good friend of mine. I said, MashaAllah, and your son has been competing in the Islamic recitation. He's doing really well, and I don't think he went to any Islamic school. I said, no. I said, who was taking care of him? I said, my dad, me and my wife, teaching him, you know, how to recite Quran and how to memorize Quran. I said, how did he do it? I said, very simple way. With a little, that was years and years back, 20 years or more. See, we had a little tape recorder, and we kept Quran recited in home. We don't even teach him. We don't even say, you have to repeat after that reciter of the Quran to read. But at home, he would be listening, and listening, and listening. When it comes to practice reading, it was much, much easier for him. Because now he's utilizing that faculty of listening, all right? And then have to be with that mental process of coding and decoding, something is coming in. So when I say it, when I repeat it, it sounds familiar to me. It is not a new product I'm dealing with. Like if I hear Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim several times during the day, and instead of sitting you in front of me, my son or daughter say after me, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bismillah, I hear it, and I'm practicing it, and I'm saying it. It would make his life, in terms of memorizing, understanding, practicing, much, much easier. Say, this is great, and this is not something that's difficult to do or to practice. It's very simple, very simple. And now with those new devices, iPhone, whatever, just, you know, have some verse of the Quran be read or recited, or hear the Quran at home, and just listen. Just listen. Good question. Thank you. More questions? More concerns? More issues? Yes.
We live in United States where basically, I would say, like, we are out by ourselves over here, one family, while other extended family are back in another country. So I was wondering how can we encourage our kids to, you know, always connected to the extended family, especially like the cousin and, you know, this kind of thing. So at least that connection will not be lost when, you know, they got to be adult or something.
If I understood your question, let me paraphrase it. We're living here in the United States of America. We have our family back home, we have our extended family back home, our relatives back home. How you can keep that connectedness with the family back home, with the traditions, with the norms, with the values, and so on and so forth. Not to just live in here and be totally disconnected with your inheritance back home.
Especially for the kids, yeah.
Good, especially for the kids. Adults, you know, can take care of it. Again and again, it is the parents who are the role model. If I am a kid and I see my parents totally disconnecting themselves with their parents. What do you expect from me as a son or a daughter? So it is again and again me first, the dad and mom first. If they both of them came from the same country, if they are married cross-culturally, that's another issue. If they are married cross-religiously, that's a third issue. It would be more difficult. Because say you're from Indonesia and you're married to a lady from Indonesia. Not that difficult. Maybe from the same village, the same town, the same city. Great, wonderful. Different cities, different town, it would be a little difficult, and so on and so forth. But how about if I'm Indonesian and I'm married to an American lady? Cross-cultural marriage in here. How about if I am Indonesian and I'm married to an American lady who never reverted to Islam? Cross-cultural marriage and cross-religious marriage. Okay? How I relate to this. So you have here different levels, and how your kids would be dealing with that situation. Back home with the normal things, we're from the same country, the same culture, the same religion, and so on and so forth. Dad and mom first, how much of communication you have with your parents. Say they passed away. They are not around. If they are still around, wallahi, don't let even a week to go by without communicating with them. Especially nowadays, very easily to communicate. If it is not WhatsApp, if it is not Viber, if it is not, what else? Facebook, if it is not, I remember, back like 30 years back, my wife and I have to save some money in order to call our parents back home, and guess how much per minute?
$3.
35 years ago.
$3.
$3. Can you imagine if you wanted to speak for 30 minutes, half an hour? Say 20. Say 10 minutes. 10 minutes.
$30.
$30. Weekly basis or monthly basis. With very poor students, both of us. Students.
And the phone echo when you talk.
And the phone, and the ground phone. and you have to choose the time and the difference in time and so on and so forth. Expensive, not available all the time, overloaded, especially during the Eid time or Ramadan. Everyone is calling back home. The system is not that good back home. System is good in here. Maybe the connection is so bad and so on and so forth. Nowadays, no excuse. No excuse. You can have chatting, you can have this and that, and so on and so forth. This is one. Two, I would refer to that wonderful ayah of the Quran. It would tell us a lot, though we do not really put a lot of emphasis on it. Though it does tell wonderful and a great teaching. And in Surah Al-Isra when we read, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّهُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordained upon us not to worship any deity except Him. This is the first thing Islam would teach us, especially when we talk about the 5 pillars of Islam. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمد رسول الله. I bear witness that there is no God worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I do not take any partners or associates with Him. And I bear witness that Muhammad is the prophet and the messenger and the seal of all prophets and messengers after him. First pillar of Islam. When we go to that ayah in Surah Al-Isra, Allah has ordained upon us, asked us, commanded us to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But next to that would be what? وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. It doesn't even go to the detailed talk about the salah, the 5 daily prayers, the zakah, charitable contribution, or almsgiving, or siyam, fasting the month of Ramadan, or hajj as the 5th pillar of Islam. No, parents. Next to that, worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. The best caring ever, looking after them the best way ever. Be so kind to them, the greatest way ever. وبالوالدين إحسانا. What kind of ihsan I should have? As I mentioned earlier, at that third element of that wonderful hadith, as I mentioned with you, when Jibreel came and asked him about the definition of Islam, the definition of Iman, definition of ihsan. Ihsan mainly, simply, to do good. Am I doing good to my parents? At least when we're far away from them, calling. How are you doing? How are things going? And so on and so forth. وبالوالدين إحسانا. إما يبلغن عندك الكبر أحدهما أو كلاهما فلا تقل لهما أف ولا تنهرهما وقل لهما قولا كريما واخفض لهما جناح الذل من الرحمة وقل رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. Think of them when they reach that old age. One of them is older, or both of them are older. Never address any one of them with the word of. I have been searching for a great equivalent meaning in English to that word of. I did not find any. But this is what I came up with. Don't even address them or tell them, you have a discussion, you have an argument, you have something to talk about it, and all of a sudden your parents, mom or dad, are telling you something and you answer with it. What does it mean? English is not my native tongue, but you can tell me. What does it mean? I said,
Never mind.
Never mind?
Never mind, I'm not listening to you.
Never mind.
Or whatever.
Or whatever. Or well, this is a wonderful,
Be quiet, don't talk.
positive.
Yeah, it's all negatives.
It's negative,
It's all
not positive.
Yeah, no.
Negative.
They complain.
Even the tonation, even your body language, but look how it is very simple. It is not even a word. So that's why in Arabic, لا تقل لهما أف. What that uff means? You're rejecting what they are saying. You're in dispute with what they are saying. You do not agree with them. But it does not go to that very harsh, bad, negative way of dealing with them. Even though, don't. But remember where the ayah is saying, إما يبلغن عندك الكبر أحدهما أو كلاهما. When they reach that old age, one of them or both of them do not say so. Why, when they are getting older, do not even say that word to them? Does it mean when they are younger, I could say some other things? No. But at that age, they are not